Yeah. When you said seek my face, my heart said to you, your face. Yeah, I will seek Psalm 27:8. When the night is cold and I can't see, I lift my voice and fall to my knees. The world is loud, but I want your peace. Yeah, I seek your face. Come and speak to me. Yeah, I seek your face, not just your hand. In a dry and weary land, you help me stand. I'm not asking for riches or signs from above. Just let me dwell in your presence and love. Seek your face, not just your hand. In a dry and weary land, you help me stand. I'm not asking for riches or signs from above. Just let me dwell in your presence and love. Tears have fallen like midnight rain, but you restore what the world can't claim. You said sing me and you'll find my grace. So here I am, yeah, I seek your face. Yeah, I seek your face, not just your hand. In a dry and weary land, you help me stand. I'm not asking for riches or signs from above. Just let me dwell in your presence and love. I seek your face, not just your hand. In a dry and weary land, you help me stand. I'm not asking for riches or signs from above. Just let me dwell in your presence and love. Seek the Lord while he may be found. Yeah. Call on him while he is near. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. See your face, not just your hand. In a dry and weary land, you help me stand. I'm not asking for riches or signs from above. Just let me dwell in your presence and love. See your face, not just your hand. In a dry and weary land, you help me stand. I'm not asking for riches or signs from above. Just let me dwell in your presence and love.
Shabbat Shalom, family. Good to see you all here. Hope you're doing well. Well, I don't know if you heard the news. The Coast Guard is now saying a noose, a swastika, a Confederate flag are no longer going to be looked at as hate symbols. I don't even think a lot of our people are in the Coast Guard. If I'm wrong, please correct me. You know, maybe I should look up what percentage we are in the Coast Guard. How many of our folks are in the Coast Guard? What's the percentage? Because I don't think it's very high. See what it comes up with. Because I think it's overwhelmingly white. Okay, so the Coast Guard makes up 5.8% Black members enlisted, and only 4.6% are officers. So, yeah, it's really not that many of our people in the US Coast Guard at all. You know, so I'm not surprised they're making this move, but you know what? Isn't the US military known for its racism? It's always been known for that. You know, even back when the Civil War was going on, the regiments were segregated, weren't they? And they wouldn't even fight side by side. The thing is, they would even get into fights, infighting out there on the battlefield. It would be fighting among the black and the white soldiers. So I mean, I'm not too shocked. You got to look who's running it, and you got to factor in Donald Trump is the sitting president, and look at how he's trying to erase our history. So he ain't for us. I don't care how much he gets at a podium talking about he loves us and loves black men and all that stuff. And then at the end of the day, he's doing some backstabbing. You can't trust nobody like that. Let's be real. So this is what they came up with. We're going to listen to a few videos. This just came out. Of course, there's a lot of people that don't like it, but who likes Donald Trump's policies at this point? Seriously, who likes this? You remember, this is happening on Donald Trump's watch. So you can't even blame anybody else for this. This is happening on his watch. Right. You look, I got family members, dark skinned brother. I got family members that told me about the racism in the military. I've heard it from people I went to school with, family members, friends. Some of my friends, they have relatives that are in the military, and they've even talked about their experiences of the racism in the military. But you know what? Everything in this place is steeped in racism. Why do you think so many of these guys in the military come out and become cops? And it's almost like you're just regenerating the same racist over and over and then just putting him in other places. It's a joke. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And remember, January 6th, all the military people that were in the crowd, and the FBI, there were some members of the CIA, all of them are like that at the end of the day. What you gonna do? But I'm not surprised they made this decision. This is just part of who America really is at the end of the day. This is who America is. And now that Donald Trump is in office, they're just gonna let it all hang out and don't care how anybody feels about this decision. Don't care. Don't care. So let me go ahead and share my screen so we can get started. Give me a 1 if you can see my screen. Thank you.
Out of the U.S. Coast Guard after reports of a softening in policy on displaying hate symbols like swastikas. The agency scrambled to clarify its position. Chief Justice Correspondent Pierre Thomas has the story. Good morning, Pierre.
George, good morning. Today, the Coast Guard is dealing with controversy after a newly published policy seemed to suggest that it was doing away with classifying a number of extremely offensive symbols as hate. And guys, we're talking about some of the worst symbols you can think of, including swastikas and nooses. A Coast Guard document dated November 2nd states that such symbols would be classified as harassment rather than as hate incidents. Quote, conduct previously handled as a potential hate incident, including those involving symbols widely identified with oppression or hatred, is processed as a report of harassment. The terminology hate incident is no longer present in policy. Guys, to say the least, that document led to a lot of confusion and led to a Washington Post headline stating that the Coast Guard would no longer classify swastikas and nooses as hate symbols. Not so, says the U.S. Coast Guard. The agency sent a notice to the workforce Thursday evening, bluntly stating that such symbols in any public settings are considered hate and would not be tolerated and would result in severe discipline, though the order made clear that such private settings like homes are not covered by the policy. Acting Coast Guard Commandant Kevin Lindy issued an order overnight reminding all Coast Guard personnel that, quote, divisive or hate symbols and flags are prohibited. Rebecca?
Yeah, they had to deal with a lot of confusion there. Okay, Pierre, thank you.
George, good morning. Today, the Coast Guard is dealing with controversy after a newly published policy seemed to suggest that it was doing away with classifying a number of extremely offensive symbols as hate. And guys, we're talking about some of the worst symbols you can think of, including swastikas and nooses. A Coast Guard document dated November 2nd states that such symbols would be classified as harassment rather than as hate incidents. Quote, conduct previously handled as a potential hate incident, including those involving symbols widely identified with oppression or hatred, is processed as a report of harassment. The terminology hate incident is no longer present in policy. Guys, to say the least, that document led to a lot of confusion and led to a Washington Post headline stating that the Coast Guard would no longer classify swastikas and nooses as hate symbols. Not so, says the U.S. Coast Guard. The agency sent a notice to the workforce Thursday evening, bluntly stating that such symbols in any public settings are considered hate and would not be tolerated and would result in severe discipline, though the order made clear that such private settings like homes are not covered by the policy. Acting Coast Guard Commandant Kevin Lindy issued an order overnight reminding all Coast Guard personnel that, quote, divisive or hate symbols and flags are prohibited.
So the Coast Guard no longer considers swastikas and nooses hate symbols anymore. No, they're just considered diverse. Guess I only have one thing to say to that, considering I had a swastika drawn in my garage this week. Bro, I don't give a fuck. Like, you guys are terrible at rage baiting. Holy shit. Like, that bonehead who helped write Project 2025 that wrote his dissertation about black people knew absolutely motherfucking nothing about us. What the fuck was his name? Kevin Roberts or something like that? Yeah, that idiot. He knew absolutely motherfucking nothing because y'all have failed consistently since this started. Combined with his crash out today, saying that people who oppose him basically should be hung. Like, this is honestly just kind of pathetic and sad. Like, of all the supervillains we could have got, this is it. This y'all go. Y'all make me want to go to sleep. That's what I want to do. You're not interesting. You're boring. Your tactics are outdated and your way of thinking is ancient. That's why this isn't going to work. Actually, you know what? I'm going to bed. I'm actually bored to the point where I want to sleep. Better luck tomorrow, guys.
Kristi Noem says the U.S. Coast Guard will no longer classify swastikas and nooses as hate symbols. And I just have a quick question, and that is why? Who does this benefit? What possible reason do they have to remove the distinction from these symbols? All I can think of in this seat, sitting here like an idiot, is that Kristi Noem has to spell it out for the final few remaining Patriot Front 3%er racist Nazis who didn't get the memo that they were trying to recruit people to these programs. And that finally removing the distinction, the hate speech distinction from the swastika would finally send a message to the few remaining slack-jawed idiots who haven't been smart enough to hear the dog whistle this entire time. That's the only thing that I can come up with. So if you MAGA conservatives could possibly just throw me a bone and explain to me what fucking possible reason this is a good idea, I would love to hear it.
People on the right try to say that they're not racist. And yet, what you get with the Coast Guard today is a new policy saying that swastikas, nooses, and Confederate flags are no longer going to be considered hate symbols under their regulations. What that means is, practically speaking, is if you're in the Coast Guard and before this policy took place and you put a noose up or a Confederate flag or especially a swastika, that was considered a hate symbol and you would be subjected to immediate and severe discipline for it. Now, for some reason, I don't understand why, other than racism, those things are going to be okay. Potentially divisive is what they're going to be called. Potentially? I thought a swastika is always divisive. What else does it stand for but divisive? It is a hate symbol, obviously. And, you know, when the Coast Guard was contacted by the Washington Post, who broke this story, they could provide no explanation. What the hell are you going to use a noose for other than to intimidate and express hatred and bigotry? If you don't have an explanation, and the obvious one is the worst possible? Go with what makes sense because it's true.
A swastika is one of the most clear, definitional, and most violent symbols of hatred in all of humanity, let alone in the United States. And so to remove that from designation per these reports that you're informing me of is quite shocking, and it indicates a possible collaboration with those very elements, which is, I think, genuinely frightening to any American.
You can now serve in the U.S. military even if you have hate symbols tattooed on your body. The United States Coast Guard just announced today that they will not include certain symbols as hate symbols anymore. And they're so bad that I have to censor them in the title of this video, right? One of them is the four-sided pointy thing that represented the mustache man German army in the 1940s. Another thing is a rope that's designed to Black people, mainly. This is why you would get it tattooed on you. And this is kind of aligned with the de-wokeification of the military that Pete Hegseth said that he wanted. Any kind of diversity is being rejected by the military now. He said so out of his own mouth multiple times. But is this like diversity that we're attacking here? I guess. Because it begs the question. It's like, why would they change the rule on this unless they want people with these tattoos to join the military? Why would they want people that are clearly bigoted to join the military? I don't know, yo. I don't know, yo. I'm just asking the questions, yo. But I think the answer is pretty obvious.
The Washington Post just reported that the Coast Guard has.
I'm calling on Bloomberg. Go ahead.
Caroline, thank you. Two questions for you. The New York Times is reporting. The Washington Post just reported that the Coast Guard has.
I'm calling on Bloomberg. Go ahead.
Caroline, thank you. Two questions for you. The New York Times is reporting.
Hey, y'all. So y'all see this? So basically, the Coast Guard is no longer going to be classifying swastikas and nooses as hate symbols. And I'm not surprised, but I've seen it all over on other news sources and stuff. People are just like clutching their pearls. And what's happening? What's going on with this country? I can't believe it. And I sit here and I say, how can you not believe it? When our members of Congress went and confirmed this MF who has a whole racist tattoo on his chest, and they knew about it. The whole being verklempt and clutching pearls needs to stop, because I'm really sick of people acting like this is so shocking and what happened to our country. Our country has been like this. It's been fucked up. It's been racist. It's been all of the things. It's just that it wasn't affecting all of y'all. Black folks been dealing with stuff like this since we got here. Because believe it or not, there's still towns that as a Black person, I would not even drive through in the middle of the daylight. Okay? So being surprised that this is being deemed okay because they don't want to seem divisive should not be surprising to you. And actually, it's quite highly offensive how surprised everyone is acting to me about this shit, when we kept telling you, and by we, I mean Black people, Black women, we kept telling y'all these motherfuckers are racist. We kept telling y'all they are confirming people that are racist, and the Congress is the one who did it. The senators and the not Republicans, the representatives, they was damn Republicans, but representatives who put these people in place and confirm these people, yeah, they're to blame because they did this. And they know exactly what Pete Hegseth stood for. He doesn't even have the qualifications for the job he fucking has. He's definitely didn't earn it, okay? But y'all thought putting in an alcoholic without even the rank or credentials to do this job with racist tattoos on his chest wasn't going to turn around and start having racist shit happening in the military. The fact that they turned the names of Confederates back into the bases, they named it the Department of War. He's steadily trying to make sure Black men can't be in the military because they have pseudofolliculitis. He's kicking women out of the military. Now y'all are all can't believe he's getting rid of nooses and swastikas. Why are y'all shocked? Instead of being shocked, get up off your asses and do something. Why don't y'all who voted for these Republicans who confirmed these people, why aren't y'all blowing their fucking phones up asking them why they ain't getting them out of here and why they ain't impeaching Trump's ass? Instead of crying on the internet about how shocked you can't believe it is, do something about it. Because y'all crying over 11 months of pain, and y'all, you see black people been enduring this shit since our people got here. But y'all can't take 11 fucking months. This is why we've been fighting for our lives since we got here, and y'all can't take 11 months. Get up off your asses, stop crying on the internet, call your representatives, and demand they get these fucking people out of here. Or stop crying when you see this shit and just know this is what the fuck it is.
So the Coast Guard just declared that swastikas, nooses, and Confederate flags are no longer considered hate speech. So that means that they're considered like, okay, swastikas, nooses, and Confederate flags. Great job, U.S. Coast Guard. Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. Wow. Every day we get closer and closer to hell.
So the U.S. Coast Guard has come out and said that they will no longer classify the swastika, the noose, and a Confederate flag as no longer being a hate symbol. My 15-year-old overheard me talking about this, and she was almost in tears, asking, why is this happening? And how does this help anyone? It's going to start affecting these kids, and kids are going to start asking questions. Because I'm like her. Who does this help? It doesn't help anyone. These people are literally taking us back in time. And as I always say, people voted for this. I have no words.
Coast Guard says swastikas and nooses are no longer hate. The old policy says these symbols are offensive. The new policy says we'll investigate if they're offensive or not. The policy starting next month states displaying them in public will be considered divisive only if they affect good order, discipline, unit cohesion, command climate, morale, or mission effectiveness. In lamest terms, if there's no Jews or blacks around, who gives a damn? But anyway, I'd like to give a quick shout out to Kevin Lundy for these policy changes. He's the commander of the U.S. Coast Guard.
Breaking news, the Coast Guard will no longer classify swastikas or nooses as hate symbols. According to a review of both the 2023 and 2025 Coast Guard civil rights policies by Newsweek, the older version directly listed swastikas, nooses, and Confederate flags as examples of potential hate incidents. The new version drops the list and instead refers to such imagery as potentially divisive. Good news, swastikas aren't hate symbols, they're now just potentially divisive. But whatever could be behind this, the policy shift follows Trump administration's directives to loosen hazing and harassment rules, which Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has argued were too broad. Newsweek has reached out to the Coast Guard and Pentagon via email on Thursday afternoon for comment, which they, at the time of my recording this, have not yet given. Isn't it great that America's great again? Doesn't it feel amazing how great we're getting? This is us getting great again, right? Swastikas are not a problem in the U.S. military anymore. It's just potentially divisive. You know, there's a Jewish member of the Coast Guard. They might feel some kind of way about it. But otherwise, we're great again, right?
At the end of the day, y'all, Donald Trump wants everything to be about the white man. That's why he's trying to diminish the history. He's trying to, well, they said removed all kinds of stuff from the Black Smithsonian. And he wants all of us to be pushed in the background while propping up white males in the forefront. Like this place hasn't already been like that. This place has always already been like that. So you can't expect him in his Department of War and Pete Hegseth to make any sense. They're not. You got the dumbest of the dumb running the place. This is very biblical. You know, it said you would have unwise men running things. And I mean, Donald Trump and his administration are the most unwise I've ever seen in my lifetime. So it is absolutely true. And you know what? This is all the more reason for our men and women to stay out of their military. So if they're going to look the other way on this stuff, because that's pretty much what you're going to say, what you're saying in these policies, if you see a swastika, a noose, a Confederate flag, or any type of symbolic thing that is associated with hate, you're just going to let it slide. Then there's no grounds for our people to even sign up for the military. So stay out of the military. You know, I can tell you, y'all ain't gonna win no war with nothing but a bunch of white guys. I'm just telling you right now, you will never win a single war with nothing but a bunch of white guys. So good luck. Good luck. So if anything break out, remember, we are the ones you didn't want. So why would you even bother reaching out? But see, that's how it all works. See, as long as everything is going good, they're fine with what's being done. But as soon as things don't go their way or a war jump off, guess who's going to be the first people they run to? We already know the answer. We already know the answer. Okay? Watch how fast they'll stop being concerned about weeding our people out from the military. Watch how they do an about face because see that we're the ones they want to put on the front line. Those days are done. You are never getting us on the front line ever again. That's never going to happen again. You will never have us under you like that ever again. So I don't know anybody that's willing to save this place other than the people that are on top. Yeah, because you got a lot to lose. The rest of us, we don't have nothing to lose. So if we sit on the sidelines, what do we have to lose? You haven't been fair to us up in this place, not for one day. So we're not going to lose nothing if we're in or out. So we'll just sit out and y'all can do all the warring. So we'll just gladly remind you, y'all want white males. So we'll just gladly remind you the next time a war breaks out and you try to drag us into it like you always do. So y'all, let them have their old raggedy ass military. They don't win wars anyway. They don't win no damn war. They didn't win Iraq. They didn't win Afghanistan. They don't win wars no more. Let them have their little shitty ass military all to themselves. That's how I see it. So, y'all, thank you for being here. I got one more coming up at 8 o'clock, another live. And this one was actually given to me by a subscriber. They didn't want me to say their name, so I'll just call you E. Sent this to me and I got a touch on it because we got this Michael Jackson impersonator that's trying to say Michael Jackson was not black. Michael Jackson was of mixed race. I guess he didn't look at, and he's trying to say Catherine, Michael's mom, Catherine, was not black. She was of mixed race, but she was not black. I mean, this dude is, yeah, you're going to get a good kick out of this one because you're going to hear directly from him. Okay. And he's saying all this nonsense about Michael Jackson not being black. So it's another identity theft, claiming something that is, part of our culture and they're trying to make it part of somebody else's culture. You know how it goes. It always seems to happen to us and it don't ever happen to other people. Notice that? So I will see you at 8 o'clock. Thank you and Shabbat Shalom, family.